Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? It's Jeff. Cloudy day here in Maine. No rain, but it's still kind of cold out. But who knows if I heard tomorrow's supposed to be the same, but oh well. So I don't know how many of you people here have been watching the news here this afternoon, but Trump met with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa today, and it was a shit show, almost as bad as the Trump-Zelensky confrontation. Again, Trump's trying to peddle disinformation in the face of somebody who would know better than to believe anything he's saying. Okay, he's sitting here trying to sell this idea of what he thinks, or what he's describing as genocide taking place down in South Africa against white farmers. And this was news to the president of South Africa, who sat there and was like, okay, well, I don't even know anything about this. And so, I mean, it's easy to check out, I mean, as I'm going to prove to you, but let's start with the video here from Ben Mysalis, who's going to break down exactly how that fucking conversation went in the Oval Office today, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it more.
Wow, what a disaster. Donald Trump had South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa in the Oval Office today. This thing went sideways really quickly. Watch as the president of South Africa tells Donald Trump that, unlike Qatar, he can't give Donald Trump a gold-plated private jet. Here, play this clip.
That idiot talks about, after viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane to give you.
I wish you did. I'd take it. I would take it. If your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Okay.
And did you hear Donald Trump say, well, I would like another private jet? Seriously? Then throughout this press conference in the Oval Office, Donald Trump kept on blowing up at an NBC reporter in front of the president of South Africa and the other delegation from South Africa. This whole sight was humiliating. Here, play this clip.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You know, you got to get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? They're giving the United States Air Force a jet, okay? And it's a great thing. We're talking about a lot of other things. This NBC trying to get off the subject of what you just saw. You are a real, you're a terrible reporter. Number one, you don't have what it takes to be a reporter. You're not smart enough. But for you to go into a subject about a jet that was given to the United States Air Force, which is a very nice thing. They also gave $5.1 trillion worth of investment in addition to the jet. Go back, you ought to go back to your studio at NBC, because Brian Roberts and the people that run that place, they ought to be investigated. They are so terrible the way you run that network, and you're a disgrace. No more questions from you. Go ahead. Go ahead, talk about that. His name is Peter something. He's a terrible reporter. Quiet.
I mean, the United States is really just looking so clownish to the international community right now, and no offense to clowns with things like this. So then Donald Trump starts taking out a series of articles to spread the lie that there is a genocide in South Africa against the white Afrikaner farmers. And then the president of South Africa is there also with the white agriculture minister, who also knows that there is not a genocide against the white farmers in South Africa. But Donald Trump keeps pulling these like conspiracy-laden articles. Here, watch what he does. Play this clip.
What would you like President Ramaphosa to do about the situation that we've just seen on the screen?
I don't know. Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. Horrible death. Death. I don't know.
But you know that
To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws. And this is all, I mean, I'll give these to you. So when you say, what would I like to do? I don't know what to do. Look at this. White South African couples say that they were attacked violently. And,
President Trump, when will you go and see for yourself if it is?
well, I could do that. Look, here's burial sites all over the place. These are all white farmers that are being buried. And he asks about a jet that was given. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You know, you are so bad. You're such a bad reporter.
And then there's more of Donald Trump blowing up at and attacking an NBC reporter and calling the NBC reporter a jerk. Like, you can see Trump's face turn like bright orange as well. Here, play this clip.
Talk about it, and I didn't know we'd get involved here, but I will say this, that if the news wasn't fake like NBC, which is fake news totally, one of the worst, ABC, NBC, CBS, horrible, but if they weren't fake news like this jerk that we have here, if we had real reporters, they'd be covering it, but the fake news in this country doesn't talk about that.
So then the reporters keep asking Donald Trump, and you have international reporters there, reporters from South Africa and others, saying to Donald Trump, what will it take to convince you that there is not a genocide against white Afrikaners and white farmers in South Africa? I mean, you literally have the white agriculture minister, who's not from President Ramaphosa's party, here saying that there isn't one. What's it going to take? Here, play this clip.
You never change.
Mr. President, this time, what will it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for President. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our president.
So then Donald Trump has a video that he's made, or that his regime has made, to further spread the lies that there's burial sites for this genocide that is not taking place. And you have the, again, president of South Africa, Ramaphosa, sitting there saying, what is it? What are you showing me? I'm the president of South Africa. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers. And those cars aren't driving, they're stopped there to pay respects to their family member who was killed. And it's a terrible sight. I've never seen anything like it. Both sides of the road you have crosses. Those people were all killed.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. But, okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa.
So then President Ramaphosa of South Africa tells Donald Trump, he goes, I can assure you that if there was an Afrikaner farmer genocide, the 3 white Afrikaner and other white agriculture ministers and opposition party leaders who are here in the Oval Office from South Africa right now, Donald, they would tell you. They're standing here right now. Here, watch this moment. Here, play this clip.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on the around the quiet table, It will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me. So it will take him, President Trump, listening to their stories, to their perspective. That is the answer to your question.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down.
So then you have Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend is in the Oval Office, and he's one of the people who asked these questions. Remember, he was the guy who attacked Zelensky and said, why aren't you wearing a suit, is what Glenn said. So here, Brian Glenn asked this ridiculous question, but then President Ramaphosa of South Africa says, why don't I direct this question to the agriculture minister, who's white, who's here. He'll answer this question. He's from the opposition. He's part of my cabinet. Here, let him answer the question. Watch this clip.
Numbers of people that want to leave South Africa because they feel they're going to be dead very soon. Yes, please.
I was going to say,
Brian, go.
If I could just ask you a question. 72% of farmers in your country are white. If they flee, do you feel that maybe the economy could collapse? You may not have a gap to fill in those people that need to replace those farmers.
You know, I'd like my Minister of Agriculture, who is white, who comes from an opposition party to mine, who's joined my government at my invitation to address this very issue, including the question that you've just raised. John?
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you for welcoming us to the White House. I would say we have a rural safety problem in South Africa. I don't think anyone wants to candy coat that. And it requires a lot of effort to get on top of it. It's going to require more policing resources. It's going to require a different strategy to be able to deal with it. But certainly the majority of South Africa's commercial and smallholder farmers really do want to stay in South Africa and make it work. And I've just come from the largest agricultural show in the Southern Hemisphere with organized agriculture and farmers, and the majority of them want to stay. But they too there have a memorial to those who've died as a result of farm attacks. And as the Minister of Agriculture, it is something that I'm particularly exercised with my colleagues at police and my colleagues in the justice cluster to start making farm attacks and stock theft a priority crime. And it affects all farmers in South Africa, particularly stock theft. It has a disproportionate effect on smallholder black farmers.
Then Donald Trump mentions that Elon is from South Africa.
Here today, I have many friends from South Africa, but many of those friends are not, they can't go back. Elon is from South Africa. I don't want to get Elon involved. That's all I have to do, get him into another thing. But Elon happens to be from South Africa. This is what Elon wanted. He actually came here on a different subject, sending rockets to Mars, okay? Yes. He likes that better. He likes that subject better. That's right. But Elon is from South Africa, and I don't want to talk to him about that. I don't think it's fair to him.
More of Donald Trump attacking NBC. Let's play.
Any questions, please?
Mr. President, we welcome white Afrikaner refugees here. Can you explain to Americans why it's appropriate to welcome white Afrikaners here when other refugees like Afghans, Venezuelans, Haitians have all had their protected status revoked?
Well, this is a group, NBC, that is truly fake news. They ask a lot of questions in a very pointed way. They're not questions, they're statements.
Then Donald Trump randomly thinks that it's a good idea to attack the New York Attorney General Letitia James in this Oval Office meeting with the President of South Africa?
Very much. I'd like to get your thoughts on Letitia James. Director Polte, according to him, Letitia James says that the alleged mortgage fraud was simply a mistake. I want to get your thoughts on that. She put down that her father was her husband in order, and this is very similar to, I guess, the false attacks they had on you.
Well, I don't know what it is currently, but Letitia James, who's the Attorney General of New York State, it seemed, I'm not involved in that at all. I know it's being handled by various groups, I guess, but it's major fraud, mortgage documents, and fraudulent everything. I think she said the father was her husband, which she had to have a husband, so she chose her father, and she put it down, and she had didn't she sign in Virginia, yet she said she lived in Virginia, yet she's the New York State Attorney General. She did that for tax reasons, so she could take advantage of taxes. And she had the wrong number of units. She had a much different number, which wouldn't have allowed her to qualify and scam the government. So I don't know. I think she's very bad for New York, but I really don't know too much about it, but I appreciate the question. Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
And then you have some of the other ministers there with President Ramaphosa explaining, look, we have too many deaths in general in South Africa. We have gang violence in South Africa the way you have gang violence in the United States. And it's not specifically gang violence targeted at white people. There's a lot of black farmers who are targeted as well. I mean, there's violence. So we would like to have the support from the United States and from the international community to help as well. Here, play this clip.
And look how he's changed.
Right.
We have too many deaths, but it's across the board. It's not only white farmers. It's across the board. And we need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones. I actually got drones donated for the peace parks to stop elephant and rhino poaching. And his predecessor stopped the importation because he said the United States would spy on us. I mean, US SpaceX, the ridicule. So if you can help us. Remember, sir, you and I lived in New York in the 70s. We never thought New York could be what it became. 2 commissioners, a tough mayor. We need your help to stop this awful killing. But it's across the board.
And as I watch this disaster in the Oval Office unfold, I just think about what's going on in Beijing right now, where Xi Jinping must have the biggest smile on his face, and think about how the BRICS bloc is going to be strengthened, how America looks so unreliable and weird to the international community. It looks like a pariah regime, like a Kim Jong-un-like regime, with Donald Trump orange-faced, exploding at reporters, holding up weird articles, and we're just like speeding up the rise of China. It's a ridiculous, objectively, no matter what political party you're from, you should look at this and go, what in the world just happened here? We're going to cover it every step of the way on the Midas Touch Network. Now hit subscribe and help us get to 5 million subscribers.
All right. Okay, so let's go to this article here from The Guardian, written by David Smith. And it's published today because this is, happening today. It says, Donald Trump ambushed the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa, by playing him a video that he falsely claimed proved genocide was being committed against white people under the, quote, opposite of apartheid, unquote. The hectoring stunt on Wednesday set up the most tense Oval Office encounter since Trump's bullying of Volodymyr Zelensky in February. But Ramaphosa, who earlier said that he had come to Washington to reset the relationship between the two countries, refused to take the bait and suggested that they, quote, talk about it very calmly, unquote. Trump has long maintained that Afrikaners, a minority descended from mainly Dutch colonists who ruled South Africa during its decades of racial apartheid, are being persecuted. South Africa rejects the allegation. Murder rates are high in the country, and the overwhelming majority of victims are black. What began as a convivial meeting at the White House, including lighthearted quips about golf, took a sudden turn when Ramaphosa told Trump there is no genocide against Afrikaners. Trump said, quote, "We have thousands of stories talking about it." unquote, then ordered his staff, quote, turn the lights down and just put this on, unquote. Meaning to say, you know, he was ready to ambush, Ramaphosa here, okay? he had this all set up. He was going to try to embarrass this guy. Sitting next to Trump before the fireplace, Ramaphosa forced a smile and turned to look at a big TV screen as Trump's South Africa-born billionaire ally Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, the defense secretary Pete Hegseth, and diplomats and journalists from both countries looked on. The video included footage of former South African President Jacob Zuma and firebrand opposition politicians Julius Malema singing an apartheid-era struggle song called, quote, Kill the Boer, unquote, which means farmer or Afrikaner, as supporters danced. Ramaphosa quietly but firmly pushed back, pointing out that the views expressed in the video are not government policy. There was also footage that Trump claimed showed the graves of more than 1,000 white farmers marked by white crosses. Ramaphosa, who had mostly sat expressionless, occasionally craning his neck to look, said he had not seen that before and would like to find out what the location was. Trump then produced a batch of newspaper articles that he said were from the last few days reporting on killings in South Africa. He read some of the headlines and commented, quote, death, 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 horrible death, unquote. Ramaphosa acknowledged there is crime in South Africa and said the majority of victims are black. Trump cut him off and said, quote, the farmers are not black, unquote. The conspiracy theory of a white genocide has long been a staple of the racist far right, and in recent years has been amplified by Musk and right-wing media personality Tucker Carlson. Trump kept returning to the theme during Wednesday's televised meeting. He said, quote, now I will say apartheid, terrible. That was the biggest threat. That was reported all the time. This is sort of the opposite of apartheid. Quote, what's happening now is never reported. Nobody knows about it. All we know is we are being inundated with people with white farmers from South Africa, and it's a big problem, unquote. He added, quote, they're white farmers and they're fleeing South Africa, and it's a very sad thing to see, but I hope we can have an explanation of that because I know you don't want that, unquote. But Ramaphosa maintained an even tone, observing, quote, we were taught by Nelson Mandela that whenever there are problems, people need to sit down around the table and talk about them, and this is precisely what we would also like to talk about, unquote. The meeting came days after around 50 Afrikaners arrived in the U.S. to take up Trump's offer of Trump made Trump's offer of refuge. Trump made the offer despite the U.S. having halted arrivals of asylum seekers from most of the rest of the world as he cracks down on immigration. Relations between the countries are at their lowest point since the end of apartheid in 1994. The U.S. has condemned South Africa's case, accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza at the International Court of Justice, slashed aid, announced 31% tariffs, and expelled the South Africa ambassador for criticizing Trump's Make America Great Again movement. But the biggest bone of contention has been a South African land expropriation law signed in January that aims to redress the historical inequalities of white minority rule. Ramaphosa denied that the law will be used to arbitrarily confiscate white-owned land, insisting that all South Africans are protected by the Constitution. But Trump falsely asserted, quote, you do not allow them to take land, and then when they take the land, they kill the white farmer, and when they kill the white farmer, nothing happens to them. Quote, you're taking people's land away from them, and those people in many cases are being executed. They're being executed, and they happen to be white, unquote. Ramaphosa arrived at the White House with Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen, who was white, two of South Africa's top golfers, Ernie Els and Retief Goosen, and the country's wealthiest person, Johan Rupert, in a bid to woo the golf-loving president, all weighed in on during the Oval Office meeting and seemed to be well received by Trump. Rupert said South Africa needs technological help in stopping deaths in the country, which he said were not just of white farmers, but across the board. Quote, we have too many deaths. It's not only white farmers, it's across the board, and we need technological help. We need Starlink at every little police station. We need drones, unquote, Rupert said. South Africa will reportedly offer Musk, who was born in the country, a deal to operate his Starlink satellite internet network in the country. The Tesla and SpaceX boss has accused Pretoria of, quote, openly racist, unquote, laws, a reference to post-apartheid black empowerment policies seen as a hurdle to the licensing of Starlink. South Africa is one of the most unequal societies in the world. White people make up 7% of the country's population, but own at least half of South Africa's land. They are also better off economically by almost every measure. So, okay, that's the whole article. All right, now, being that 7% is really all there is, as far as, population goes down there, it's hard to say that a genocide is taking place. And let's be honest here. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I mean, the white people at that time down there were heavily, attacking blacks in that area, okay? I mean, you had people that settled down in there from Nazi fucking Germany. They fled to that fucking that part of the world, okay? Musk, okay? His family tied into that. He grew up in that shit, okay? He grew up where the white people were constantly, abusing the black people in that part of the country. Now that the tables are reversed, okay, the white people down there are crying and belly aching, okay? These black people are getting back what was taken from them all those years of apartheid, okay? So forgive me if I don't feel sorry for the white farmers down there who some of them might be feeling like they're under the gun now, okay? It's something that had to happen at some point. You can't expect oppressed people to stay oppressed forever. They're going to rise up and rebel, and that's what they're doing. But the idea that, Trump is here saying we got white farmers coming over here, I'm giving them refuge, and you got a problem in that country. What the hell does he care? Okay, why does Trump all of a sudden want to talk about this? He has the president of South Africa come over here to the Oval Office, and he tries to ambush him on something that really is not an issue of ours, but he makes it an issue. He does this shit all the time where he takes something that goes on in this country or in any country, and he blows it up into something that the whole world ought to be witnessing, okay? Like it's, the whole world should be doing something about this. This has been going on. This has been tit for tat down there for generations, okay? And it was bound to blow up in their face. The white people mistreating the black people in that population down there, okay? And now the table's reversed. And so the white people are getting hurt, killed, okay? It's not a genocide, okay, by any measure of how you say it. I mean, the president saw that fucking, the president of South Africa saw that goddamn video, if you remember seeing what Ben Maisala showed, and he asked, I'd like to know where the hell that is. Because for all we know, he just had a helicopter fly over some road in Texas, and they just planted crosses down the sides of the road, and he's sitting here trying to peddle that as, this is what's going on in South Africa. How the fuck does it, how can you tell where the hell that thing was taken, okay? If the president couldn't even recognize where that is, okay? And Trump don't even want to tell him where they got that, because he asked him, where? I'd like to know where that is. And Trump says, South Africa. Where in South Africa? That's what he wants to know. Trump wouldn't answer him because it probably don't exist. It's something he probably had engineered. Like the fucking videos he had all set up and ready to show him. He probably had this whole thing planned from the get-go to film this bogus graveyard thing, okay? And then he had all these pictures and he had all this paperwork here of stuff, death, death, death. He was ready for this. He was prepped for this. He brings that up at the conference, okay, to try and embarrass, you know, the president of Africa, okay, to try to embarrass the guy. Why? I don't know. Maybe because the guy's black, he doesn't like him. I mean, obviously, Trump was in a bad mood today when he was doing this thing. He seemed like he was ready for a fight because the minute some reporter asked him a question that he didn't want to answer, okay, NBC, oh, fake news. No, he's not going to, you know, he was obviously hot, okay, today. Maybe because he didn't want to talk to the president of South Africa. We know he doesn't like black people, right? So you could see he was very uncomfortable sitting next to this guy as they were talking. And I think he wanted to do something to piss the guy off. He's got no interest in what's going on down there. All right? And he said, oh, I don't want to get Musk involved in this. And then he says, oh, I've heard 1,000 stories. Yeah, I bet he heard all these supposed 1,000 stories from Musk's mouth. And I'm sure he told the truth about every single one, right? Christ. You know, the way this guy treats foreign dignitaries in this country should send a signal to everyone else in other countries. Don't come over here and talk to our president because he doesn't like you. He's going to try to embarrass you in some way. That Oval Office meeting, that's a snake pit. That's what that is. That's a fucking snake pit. And all the venom is ready there to strike. You know, Cyril Ramaphosa handled it better than, you know, than some people would have, I guess. I think he expected Trump to be, you know, vindictive in some way. But the fact that everybody's sitting there chuckling and laughing, you know, when Trump's talking and stuff, it was disgusting. Okay? Nothing Trump did at that fucking meeting was funny and laughable, okay? There was nothing about any of that. And the fact that he wouldn't answer any questions from any reporters that were asking him things, okay, suggests that he doesn't want to be cornered by anything. All right? He says it right off the bat, I'm not involved. Bullshit. He's got a habit of saying exactly the opposite of what he's doing. Sure, he's involved. He is involved with that whole process today from the get-go to deliberately try to embarrass President Ramaphosa, okay? Trying to embarrass him. And that's all it was. He has no intention of doing anything with South Africa or whatever the hell this whole thing was supposed to be about, because you got to keep in mind, what he announces what he's going to be talking about doesn't always end up being what's covered. As you could see, what got covered out of this today was Trump treating this guy like shit in front of the world. And why anybody would go to him to ask for any kind of assistance for anything is beyond me. Trump is not interested in helping out anybody. He wants, if this country's got money to help out another country, he's going to say, that's going to me. I want that money. Okay, if our country's got extra money rolling around in its pocket, that should be in my pocket, not in the country's pocket. All right? So you can forget about anything Trump thinks he's going to do here, or what he's telling people he wants to do. It's not going to happen. And the fact that he got pissed off, and another thing, him keeps saying that jet was given to the Air Force is total bullshit. The Air Force would not take an airplane that has gold-plated toilet seats and gold-plated interiors. That was a personal gift to Trump and Trump alone. That was not meant for the Air Force, okay? I'm sorry, but he's trying to change it because he knows the country is pissed off as hell that he took that bribe. Where anybody else would have done that, the Republicans would have called for impeachment. All right? That was illegal for him to accept that jet. So he turns the narrative around and says, it was a gift to the United States Air Force. Like the Air Force would fly around in gold-plated airplanes, right? Give me a fucking break. I mean, they could probably afford it, given how much of our nation's budget goes to their goddamn Department of Defense, but we don't gold-plate our airplanes, all right? I'm sorry, but that's not standard fucking operational material here. And so Trump is, like I said, he's on the defense. He was very, very much on the defense today. He was, the reporters are trying to get him to talk about something. He ain't going to answer no questions. Okay, he doesn't want to be cornered. He doesn't want anybody and he kept going after that guy during the conference. Okay, and he's just he's so fucking childish. It's unprofessional. You'd never expect the president of our country to behave in the manner that he was behaving today, and it's so embarrassing. And he's sitting here trying to make issue about something happening in South Africa, where it's been in our position that apartheid ended in that part of the world, and we were on the side of the black people down there because they were being abused. And I think most people would agree, we're still on their side. We don't care, you know, what happens to the white farmers down there, okay? They're getting back what they were doing to these other people for years. So I'm like, okay, if there is a genocide, go on, go for it. Jesus. Take your country back. Get that 7% of white people the hell out of there, all right? Because they were the problem that created this problem in the first place, okay, about them being kicked out of that part of the world. They tried to go down there, the white people, okay, and they tried to, you know, dominate that part of the world. And the people, the natives there, they say, no fucking way. It'd be no different if the slaves in our country rose up against the fucking slave owners, okay, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, it's a genocide, they're killing all the farmers. Really? We're supposed to shed a tear for the fucking slave owners? Give me a break. I'm sorry, but if it makes me sound cold-hearted, but they're getting what they deserve. You know, I could care less what happens to the farmers down there. They shouldn't even be allowed to come into this country, okay, for asylum. They created that problem, and we are harboring these fucking animals into this country. I'm sorry, but, you know, I don't see the logic to it. I think it's a disgrace that Trump is letting those people over here. If they should go back, it should be back to the nations of their birth, okay? Not the United States, okay? That they don't belong here. They should go back to where they came from, which is mostly England, I think, you know, and other countries. But that's where they need to go. Don't come here. Don't come here. But, you know, when you got a bigot and a racist in the White House, of course he's going to open the door to more racists and bigots, right? They're going to come over here. And they're mad that the black people are taking back what's theirs and kicking out the assholes that were trying to, subjugate them. You know? Well, how else can, I'm being honest. I'm being honest. And if you were honest too, you'd say the same fucking thing. Those people deserve what they get. You know? I'm sorry. But, you know, if the president was looking at that video and he can't figure out where the hell that video was taken, where there's 1,000 crosses on the fucking road, if he doesn't know where the hell that is, and he asked the president where that is, and the president wouldn't even answer where that is, okay, then why should we believe that the video is even legit? There's no fucking, what can I say? There's no source material given where people can actually verify it. And when you don't give out source material to verify its validity, then why should we accept it as fact? You know, if you went to court and somebody was trying to use that as evidence to show a crime was committed, and here's the proof of, you know, everyone's going to want to know, where was this taken? You know, is it there? You know, the people are going to want to answer that. You know, we can't just take things on their face value and say, oh, it's true, it's true. We do that too much in this country. We never ask. You know, where is it? You know, where's this stuff come from? Let me see the proof here. You know, video evidence is really not enough today, because we know so much about what people can do with video evidence. You know, they can edit that. You know, they can create false, videos. They can, you know, set up things. I mean, Jesus Christ. We make movies in this goddamn country, people. You're going to believe everything you see in a movie theater? Jesus. You know, think about it. A video don't mean shit today. So that was, like I said, what Trump did today, that was just a setup to try to embarrass this president. And the president wasn't biting onto it, thank God. You know, that Cyrillic kind of expected Trump to be pulling something like this. But I don't think why, again, I ask, why do they come to this country to ask Trump to do anything? You know the answer is going to be no, or he's going to turn it into some fucking pounce attempt to embarrass them, okay? Forget United States. We are a rogue country now. We don't belong to anybody. We just fucking, we do what we want, when we want, how we want, and if the rest of the world doesn't like it, fuck you. So we're rogue now. We don't even want allies anymore. We don't even want to be part of the UN anymore. So what the hell does that, what kind of effort do the people in other countries think the United States is going to give them? They're just going to be fodder for more mockery and stuff like that. And with the president we got, Christ, forget it. You know, rather have my head set on fire and put out with a sledgehammer than actually ask Trump for a fucking dime, okay? You're not going to get a damn thing from that guy but a bunch of back talk and loose lips and bullshit, okay? That's all you're going to get from him. All right, so let's go to a commercial break, and I got another article to read when we come back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me. At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
I thought I'd just get head spins, not nicotine poisoning.
Oh my god. His vape taped. I wanted to be social. I didn't want the addiction that took over.
I thought it was just a bit of fun, but not being able to breathe because of lung damage is definitely not fun.
It's proven that vapes cause real harm. Every vape is a hit to your health. For more proof, search vaping harms.
Hey there, folks. Hope you're doing well today. So what is the cost of owning the libs? Well, according to actual economists, the people MAGA calls witch doctors with calculators, it's about $3,800 per household. That's not a number. That's a Vegas vacation. Hell, that is a vacation to the Vatican. Forget Vegas, $4,000. It could be rent or health care or eggs in 2025. But MAGA looked at the bill and said, totally worth it. I made a transgender Starbucks barista cry in 2025, no regrets. Trump recently slapped 145% tariffs on Chinese goods because nothing says smart economic policy like punching yourself in the wallet to prove you're tough. Imports are down, prices are up, and Americans are living out the dumbest economic revolution since someone said, you know what the economy needs? More suffering and less stuff. You wanted to bring back American manufacturing. Congrats. You brought back American suffering, and now Ford has a factory in Vietnam, and your lawnmower costs as much as a kidney. And the economy, let's just say the GDP didn't shrink. It sucked inwards like a dying star. Markets dropped. The S&P 500 went face first into the pavement, and investors are Googling how to invest in canned beans. Oh, but don't worry. We still had Liberation Day. Yeah, Trump's new holiday, May 1st, the day where America finally liberated itself from, affordable goods and basic literacy. He gave a speech in front of a burning dictionary and said, we freed the economy from math. 10 minutes later, the Fed chair started crying in public, but hey, we're winning, right? Wages are flat, inflation's climbing, and the middle class is disappearing faster than Rudy Giuliani's hair dye in July. But at least a school library in Vermont no longer carries Heather has two mommies. That's a victory, right? Let's not forget the average MAGA voter didn't just shoot themselves in the foot. They took out a payday loan to buy the gun, used their stimulus check for ammo, and now they're limping into Walmart wondering why baby formula costs more than cocaine. So, is it worth it? Is owning the libs worth losing your country, losing affordable goods? Because I hate to break it to you, but you didn't own the libs. You rented a fantasy, and the bill is due.
President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country. Ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
Congratulations on this truly historic first 100 days of your administration.
This is the 100th day of the most consequential, historic first 100 days in the history of this country.
In your first term, you were courageous. This time, you're not just courageous, you're actually fearless. You've probably assembled the greatest cabinet ever.
They say I wear a lot of hats. Even my hat has a hat.
Since you've been your last 100 days, which saved, are you ready for this, media? 258 million lives. 258 million lives.
They all hated me in my first term, and now they're kissing my ass. You know? It's true.
So what do you think a Trump government would look like, Senator?
It would be chaos. Donald Trump is a con artist.
They kiss my ass.
Thank you.
It's true. They kiss my ass.
Thank you for that.
And it usually starts with the president.
Over the next 100 days, we're going to do much, much more.
Never mix salt with these two ingredients if you don't want your hose to be rock hard tonight. Every time you see an older man with a young woman, you can bet he's using the salt trick. In fact, I've been left unable to walk for more than 4 days because of it. This talk about women only wanting money is just an excuse from guys who can't perform in bed. What women really care about is whether a man can heat things up in the bedroom and keep everything working. Having worked in the adult industry for many years, I discovered this after watching a video by Emily, a friend and former adult film star. In the video, Emily reveals that every man has a little hidden button on his body. When activated, it can make even 80-year-old men stand tall and be ready to handle any young woman for 2 straight hours. Dr. Jack Jordan scientifically proved this, and the method works so well that it makes your body stay rock solid whenever you want. All you need is the salt recipe in the morning with a bit of warm water. It takes less than 15 seconds. Fun fact, this recipe was banned for over 40 years because it threatened the sales of the famous little blue pill in pharmacies. After the video about salt featuring the ex-actress went viral, I can now share it here. Just click the link in the description or the pinned comment to access everything you need to make this recipe. Watch the video alone because it includes some very steamy practical demonstrations. Jack shows exactly how to do it and the results it delivers instantly. Everything you can imagine happens right in front of the cameras with nothing censored. So grab your headphones, click the link below, and get ready for content so hot it might even make you want to join in yourself.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, so this other article comes from PBS News, written by Amy Sherman from PolitiFact. It's entitled Fact-Checking Trump's Claims of White Farmer Genocide in South Africa, published today. Let's see. President Trump recently allowed 59 white Afrikaner farmers to resettle in the U.S. as refugees, saying they are losing their land in South Africa and are targets of genocide. When a reporter asked why he created an expedited path for Afrikaners, Trump said, quote, "Because they're being killed and we don't want to see people be killed, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about," unquote. He then added, quote, "White farmers are being brutally killed and their land is being confiscated in South Africa," unquote. Trump has shared versions of this narrative since 2018, as have others in his orbit, including Elon Musk, a Trump advisor from South Africa. Trump's decision about resettling Afrikaners was a reversal. He suspended all U.S. refugee admissions after taking office. The South African government criticized Trump's February 7 executive order on allowing Afrikaner resettlement in the U.S. Quote, "It is ironic that the executive order makes provision for refugee status in the U.S. for a group of South Africa that remains amongst the most economically privileged, while vulnerable people in the U.S. from other parts of the world are being deported and denied asylum despite real hardship," unquote, the statement said. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is slated to visit the White House on May 21st. White farmers have been murdered in South Africa, but those murders account for less than 1% of more than 27,000 annual murders nationwide. Experts said the deaths do not amount to genocide, and Trump misleads about land confiscation. Quote, "The idea of a white genocide taking place in South Africa is completely false," unquote, said Gareth Newham, who heads a justice and violence prevention program at the Institute for Security Studies in South Africa. Quote, "As an independent institute tracking violence and violent crimes in South Africa, if there was any evidence of either a genocide or targeted violence taking place against any group based on their ethnicity, we would be amongst the first to raise the alarm and provide the evidence to the world," unquote. There are about 2.7 million white Afrikaners who are descendants of Dutch and French settlers in South Africa. About 80% of the people living in South Africa are black. From 1948 until the early 1990s, South Africa lived under apartheid rule, racial segregation that gave only white people power and forced black South Africans to live separately from white people. South Africa crime data and its limitations. In response to our email seeking evidence for Trump's statements, the White House provided no data. As a spokesperson said, Afrikaners told U.S. officials about violent attacks, death threats, vandalism, and racial slurs against farmers. Newham said the primary motive for almost all farm attacks is robbery, which has long been documented. Quote, "Attacks where there may be evidence of racial or political motives, i.e. slogans written on the wall at a scene of a crime or words spoken by the attacker according to the victim, are exceedingly rare and make up only a few % of the cases recorded," unquote, Newman said. "The majority of murder victims nationwide are poor, under, or unemployed young black males," Newham said. Quote, "Murder victimization is far more correlated to class, gender, and location than race," unquote, Newham said. About half of murders take place in about 12% of the precincts. Quote, "Primarily townships or poor areas in metropolitan cities mostly populated by black African people," unquote. The South African Police Service's crime report for the period from April 1st, 2022 to March 31st, 2023 shows there were 51 murders on farms of a total of 27,494 murders nationwide, but the data has limitations. The race of farm murder victims is not consistently recorded in official data, said Anthony Casaboni, a senior researcher at the University of Johannesburg Center for Social Development in Africa. While anecdotal evidence suggests many victims are white, other victims are black or non-white, Casaboni said. Quote, media reports sometimes mention race, but these are sporadic and not methodologically robust enough to support claims of systemic racial targeting, unquote. Nikama Brody, a journalist who wrote a book on farm murders and has fact-checked the topic, told PolitiFact that the South African Police Service has not always, excuse me, has not always been effective at creating a farm murder count. One challenge is deciding who is counted as a farmer because there are commercial farms and quote small holdings, which can simply be plots of land. Brody said AfriForum, a non-governmental organization focused on Afrikaners, is one of the more reliable sources of information about killings of white Africans-speaking farmers. AfriForum data, which is based on information from police, private security services, victims, and media reports, showed about 50 farm murders a year. Brody said that a white farm owner's death is more likely to be covered in the news than the killing of a rural smallholder. The majority of the country's smallholders and rural residents are black. Quote, South African media coverage of murder victims is extremely selective and creates a false depiction of who is most at risk, unquote, Brody said. We asked the State Department for evidence of a genocide of white farmers in South Africa, and a spokesperson said the department had nothing to announce regarding a genocide determination. The official definition of genocide, written in 1948 following negotiations led by the United States, is killing, causing bodily harm, preventing births, or forcing the transferal of children, quote, with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group, unquote. The definition includes no guidance on absolute numbers or percentages required to qualify as genocide. There are many arguments about the definition of genocide, said Richard Brightman, an American University distinguished professor emeritus and author of books about the Holocaust. Quote, but many specialists regard the intent to destroy an entire ethnic, religious, or national group as essential, unquote, Bretman said. Quote, it is not strictly a matter of numbers of victims, but of an organized effort, usually by a government or political organization, to target a large percentage of a defined enemy group, unquote. Experts reject the genocide characterization of Afrikaners. Quote, there is no indication of a state-sponsored campaign or intent to eliminate a specific racial group, unquote, Casaboni said. Quote, the primary motive remains robbery, sometimes coupled with extreme violence, consistent with broader patterns of violence, crime in South Africa, unquote. The term genocide evokes the horrors of the Holocaust, which killed 6 million Jews, and the 1994 Rwandan genocide, where 800,000 Tutsis were systematically killed, Casaboni said. Quote, against this backdrop, and the UN's legal definition, labeling farm killings as genocide is both inaccurate and misleading, unquote, Casaboni said. Quote, this does not diminish the severity of the violence or the need for enhanced rural safety, but it highlights the importance of responding with evidence, nuance, and context, unquote. Jean-Yves Camus, co-director at the Observatory of Political Radicalism at the Foundation for European Progressive Studies, said the issue, quote, needs to be seen in the broader context of a country plagued by crime and gang activity, unquote. During apartheid, non-white families lost their homes and land. When apartheid ended in the mid-90s, the government passed laws to help black South Africans recover from decades of discrimination and abuse. Ramaphosa signed a bill in January that spells out procedures for the government to take land for a public purpose. The bill calls for compensating landowners, with some exceptions, such as if the land isn't being used or the owner's main purpose is not to develop the land. The circumstances when payment isn't required are, quote-unquote, very limited, wrote Zaza Temers Bogenpol, a Stellenbosch University professor who lectures about property law. Quote, in South Africa's colonial and apartheid past, land distribution was grossly unequal on the basis of race, unquote, Bogenpol wrote. Quote, the country is still suffering the effects of this, so expropriation of property is a potential tool to reduce land inequality. This has become a matter of increasing urgency. South Africans have expressed impatience with the slow pace of land reform, unquote. The main objective of this law is to allow the government to legally take abandoned or underused land, such as hundreds of buildings in Johannesburg that have been abandoned by their owners and taken over by slumlords and people involved in organized crime, Newham said. Experts told us that no land seizures have taken place yet. Quote, there is no evidence of systemic land confiscation targeting white farmers or anyone else, unquote, Casaboni said. Okay, so it seems like in every instance and in every angle where they try to, find out about genocide in general, everybody's come back with no. Okay, so, here, they got the picture here, this article here that shows Trump here holding up fucking bullshit, okay, and claiming genocide is going on. Where the fuck, why is it that everybody and these aren't just all people in South Africa, some of these are from other countries, they're all saying the same thing, yeah, there's murder down there, okay, but a genocide, I mean, if all the murders that are happening had any focus on just white people, then it would show it, but it's not. They have gangs down there. Gangs are not, looking to do genocide. They're just robbing places. As it also pointed out in this article. They're going after these farmers because they got all the fucking goodies and they're going in there and robbing them. It has nothing to do, I think, in most cases, if they're white. But, like I said before, hey, these people are getting back what they created in that damn part of the world, and so, I can't say I feel sorry for them. All right? And they should leave. Really. Because, the roots of why they're there are tainted with crap, and they shouldn't stay there. Give the land back to the people that are native there. Let them have it. Let them farm it. Let them do what they want with it. These folks that came in from other countries here and brought their racial ideas with them, okay, go home. Stay the hell out of there. That's not your land. You don't belong there. Pack up your shit and leave. That's what they want. And, then the problems is solved because, if the issue was about helping out South Africa as just a population of black people, Trump wouldn't even look in that direction. Okay, we never would have got a visit from the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, today, if he came here to talk about black farmers, being harassed and killed and stuff like that. Trump would have just said, I don't want to talk to him. I'm not going to listen to this guy. Okay. But because it's, a very small sliver of the white population down there are finding it hard to live there, now he's trying to make it into some international crusade, when it's, it's all based in how he hates black people and stuff like that. And the way he treated the president like he was something to crush under his heel, despicable. And I'm sure everybody else, in the world, other world leaders probably watched that and said the same thing. Why deal with that cocksucker? That fucking guy is ridiculous. He's out of his damn mind. He doesn't, he can't even stay awake most of the time when he's, talking to leaders from around the world. Okay, you remember how he used to call Joe Biden Sleepy Joe? Well, now we can call him Sleepy Don because basically that's what he is. Okay, his mental faculties are just not there. He's all he's running on are fumes, basically, and they're hateful fumes, and that's all he cares about. And it's about how he is trying to incorporate his ideas about running businesses into running this country as a business, and trying to profit for himself on this business while everybody's tanking and going under. You know, he doesn't care. But that's what he's doing. You know, I want to read you this here from the AP. CBS News CEO Wendy McMahon quits as potential Trump lawsuit settlement looms. CBS News CEO Wendy McMahon said Monday that she is resigning after 4 years. The latest fallout at the network is as its parent company considers settling a lawsuit with President Trump over a 60 Minutes interview with his former political opponent. McMahon, who has led both the network news division and news for the CBS-owned stations, said in an email message to staff that, quote, "It's become clear that the company and I do not agree on the path forward. It's time to move on and for this organization to move forward with new leadership," unquote. McMahon has made clear she opposes settling with Trump, just like 60 Minutes executive producer Bill Owens, who quit last month. Trump has sued CBS, alleging it edited an interview with 2024 Democratic opponent Kamala Harris last fall to benefit her. CBS News has denied that. CBS's parent company, Paramount Global, is in talks to potentially settle Trump's lawsuit. At the same time, Paramount Global is seeking administration approval of a merger with Skydance Media. George Cheeks, co-CEO of Paramount and head of the CBS network, said McMahon's top deputies, CBS News President Tom Sabrowski and CBS Stations President Jennifer Mitchell, will report directly to him. McMahon, in her note, said that the past few months have been challenging, unquote, to say the least. "I have spent the last few months shoring up our businesses and making sure the right leaders are in place, and I have no doubt they will continue to set the standard," unquote. In addition to the tussle with Trump, Paramount's controlling shareholder, Sherry Redstone, has expressed unhappiness over some network coverage of Israel's war in Gaza, including a 60 Minutes piece this winter. Paramount began supervising 60 Minutes stories in new ways, including asking former CBS News President Susan Zorinsky to look over some of its stories before they aired. That extra layer contributed to Owens' resignation. One of the show's correspondents, Scott Pelley, said on the air that, quote, "None of us is happy," unquote, about the changes. CBS News is also trying to establish the new anchor team of John Dickerson and Maurice Dubois at its flagship, quote, CBS Evening News, unquote, broadcast aimed ratings troubles. In this note to staff members, Cheeks praised McMahon for expanding local news at CBS stations and improving their competitive positions, along with improving the network's digital offerings. Despite the internal tensions, the 60 Minutes broadcast has done several notably tough stories on the Trump administration, and it has drawn the ire of the president. He attacked the show after one episode in April. Almost every week, 60 Minutes mentions the name Trump in a derogatory and defamatory way, the president said on social media. Well, hey, you call him as you see him. On Sunday's season finale of 60 Minutes, a story that had been scheduled and publicly announced about cutbacks at the Internal Revenue Service was not aired. A spokeswoman said it was because on Friday, CBS learned that IRS leadership had told senior staff that it had decided to call some 7,000 probationary employees back to work. CBS said it would continue to report on the details and broadcast the story sometime in the future. A Trump settlement with Paramount has precedents. The Walt Disney Company decided in December to pay $15 million to end a Trump libel lawsuit against ABC News over a statement made by the network's George Stephanopoulos regarding a sexual assault case against Trump. The new administration has been battling with the media over several fronts, including engaging in a court fight with the Associated Press over curtailing access because the agency has not followed Trump's wishes to rename the Gulf of Mexico, making efforts to shut down government-run news services like the Voice of America, and cutting funding to public broadcasting. Yeah, so anybody that says anything that he doesn't want to hear or doesn't like gets sued or gets under, falls under attack. And it pisses me off that CBS is going to kiss his ass, settle with him. Okay, Trump's claiming, oh, that fucking debate was edited. Really? Funny, it was live. How do you edit something that's live? Okay, he's talking about something that was broadcast to the public as it was happening, real time. It was not edited. And they have a very good case to prove that, but no, they're going to settle with him. You see, that's the problem with corporate media today. They're too interested in their image, too interested in their product, too interested in making money. And when the focus of the media, the news media, is about profit, facts, truth, speech, and the right to report what's happening gets thrown under the fucking bus. Okay? That's what's happening. So, as Trump was sitting here embarrassing that reporter from NBC today, okay, NBC will continue to keep their lips glued firmly to Trump's ass, okay, and they'll probably admonish that reporter who asked him a question that got under Trump's skin today and say, what's the matter with you? Why did you get him all upset? They're going, and this further erodes American journalism in this country. Because now the journalists can't be journalists anymore. All they can do is play patty cake with the president and stroke his fucking ego, essentially, is all they're allowed to do. And that's really why they're only there. I mean, if they ain't gonna go there to make him feel good about what he's about his screw-ups, then they're not welcome. All right? It's gonna fall on the small journalists out there, those who do not have a TV station to talk about the news. It's going to fall on their backs to report what is. It's going to fall on the backs of international journalists from other news agencies around the globe to spread the word what's going on in the United States, because our own media has basically gone on vacation. People who have any backbone, they're resigning, which they shouldn't. Okay, if they know that they're right, and people are just not following along with them, they should stay and fight this out. Nobody says being a CEO of a company is an easy task, okay? But in this case, where you're running a journalist, a news agency for profit, the people who are looking to benefit and make money off of this agency are going to see to it that the CEO does not rock the boat. Which is why Wendy resigned. Okay? Because she's rocking the boat. She's taking a stand in a correct position, and the stockholders and whatever, they don't care. If it's pissing off Trump, it's making our stocks devalued. Okay? This lawsuit has to stop. They're forcing her, or trying to force her to settle, and she doesn't want to settle, so she's leaving, okay? And she's only been there 4 years, okay? And it's funny that she's resigning as soon as Biden left office, and now Trump's in charge, and now she's getting, she's leaving. But while Biden was president, she was in charge. So you see what I'm saying? It only happens now because of Trump. And, like I said, this is insane that, Trump is running our government this way, because it's not democratic, it's not American. And unfortunately, people are going to put his name in the book of names of people who have been president of this country, and he will be lauded that fucking title as president of the United States, when in fact he is not president of the United States. He is in fact our first criminal dictator. Head of the United States, okay? So he's in a category all by himself, okay? That might make some MAGA people feel good about that. I don't care, but he's certainly not a president, okay? He's not running this country as a president. He doesn't care about the Constitution, doesn't care about the Bill of Rights, doesn't care about anything that has anything to do about, you know, Americana or, you know, whatever you want to call it. He doesn't care. It's his country now. He's going to run it his way. And if Supreme Court doesn't like it, forget it. You're not going to stop him. He's ignoring you, you know. And, you know, if the press doesn't, you know, play nicely with him, he's going to shut them out. Or at least he'll try to. But this is where we are, people. You know, he's calling the shots. He's the one making up the stories that he wants the press to report on. He's telling them practically today, telling them, why aren't they reporting more about this? Well, you know what's going to happen? They're going to talk more about it now because he said that. They're going to talk all about this supposed genocide happening in South Africa. You're going to hear about that all over the fucking news now because he said that, and that was cue for the news agencies to follow his lead. This is what you need to be talking about. Not that I'm cutting everybody's fucking pay and laying people off and causing the ports to just stop working because there's nothing coming in, nothing going out. Okay, let's not talk about all that stuff that really matters to the American people. Let's just talk about what I want to talk about, okay? And that's all this fucking race-baiting shit that's what he likes talking about, you know? That's what he wants to talk about. So while he's doing this shit and getting the press all distracted here to talk about his day at the Oval Office, okay, people out there are suffering. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from, okay? They don't know if they're even going to have a fucking job tomorrow. These are the things people care about in America right now. We're not thinking about the folks in South Africa. We're not thinking about what's going on in Russia so much anymore because right now we have a problem in this country of trying to figure out what kind of a country we want to keep. Do we want it to be a dictatorship or do we want to go back to having a democracy? Because right now, we can't help anybody out until we help ourselves. Okay? And that's the damn truth of it. We're the ones that need to focus on ourselves here. We got problems in this country, and they need to be dealt with. And they need to be dealt with quickly. As far as the rest of the world is concerned, forget it. We cannot help you right now. Our country is in trouble. We should be flying our flag upside down because we are a nation in crisis. This is where we are. And until more Americans wake up to that fact and decide, you know, what are we going to do? We are practically a rogue country with no direction and no fucking reason to exist. Okay, except just to oppress the people living here. That's it. That's all we've become now. We are a benefit to no one. We can't help ourselves anymore. We have to fix that. Our country needs help. All right? It really does. Right now, I would say we're probably in worse shape than even South Africa. If you want to think about it, because we got a jackass who's running the country as if he is one of those white farmers that are trying to enslave people. Okay? That's what he's doing here. So we are all victims, and we need to stop worrying about the person next door being victimized. We are being victims. We can't help anybody until we help ourselves. Okay, so that's it for today. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So subscribe, comment, and share. Keep your ears open for health-related issues. And treat your neighbors wisely and smartly and help them out when they need it if you can help them. And, you know, that's how we build foundations here of strength and stability, is when we can make ourselves dependent on, and our word means something to others. When we start to value that, we can start value that in others, you know. So, talk to you later. Take care, everybody.